warm welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Soweto today with myself, Refilo Wahamutse. We're still talking unclaimed retirement funds. Now, when it comes to unclaimed benefits and retirement funds, they have been a huge problem for an extended period of time for many South Africans. Now, tracing these funds has been a challenge for the industry for various reasons. The tracing of unclaimed benefits is further exaggerated by a huge number of migrant workers that were employed either as illegal migrants or not willing to provide their actual names and identification numbers, as it would have really cost them not finding a job or be sent back to their place of origin. Now, as funds do not have accurate member data or contact details, it has a major impact on the ability of funds to trace such members or their beneficiaries. This practice is, however, still continuing in certain sectors or industries. It can be noted especially in respect of the mining sector or the motor, the metal, or the engineering industries respectively. 40 billion rand plus of unclaimed retirement funds. Now, that's a lot of money. We joined the studio by Takalani Lukhaimani, who's manager for pensions, enforcement and surveillance at FSB. That's the Financial Service Board. Let's take time to welcome her onto the show, and she can really tell us more about this. Takalani, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rufila. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Quickly take me through your role as the manager for pensions, enforcement and surveillance at the FSB.
Well, the FSB as an organization in terms of pension funds is the regulator for the retirement funding industry. That means that we register retirement funds and we also register administrators of those retirement funds. And we monitor, as the word says, we enforce and survey or have surveillance on the industry in terms of whether they're complying with the Pension Funds Act. One of my roles over and above we do on-site visits and compliance with the pension funds industry is that we need to take care of or cater to inquiries that come from the public in respect of whether they have any unclaimed benefits. So any complaints that people can't lodge with the ombudsman that we have in the industry, those complaints then come to me, to our department, and I have a team of people that work on trying to assist people with their unclaimed benefits.
Does this also mean I can still come to you to claim for my retirement fund?
Well, your first step, especially if you're at retirement, your first step would be for you to liaise with your employer and your administrator to try and then claim your money, because you're right out of employment. So you have an opportunity, then you know which fund it is. If you don't claim your money and for some reason you feel you want to lodge a complaint, those complaints within a 3-year period. So say you left Soweto TV today, you've got 3 years within which you can complain with the pension fund adjudicator's office. If you don't complain then you come to our office after 3 years. The benefits that we're talking about here are on average 16 years old, so they definitely come to our office.
I mean, 40 billion rand plus?
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
42 billion of unclaimed benefits. And
how did we come to this predicament?
I think if we take South Africa's history into context and we take into the fact that a lot of people did go to urban areas to find work, even in South Africa, so not just for immigrant workers. But people came to Johannesburg, they went to Cape Town, they went to Durban, all those industrial areas. And hence one of the biggest industries that have unclaimed benefits would be your motor, your manufacturing industries and your mining. Those industries were really quite big if we're talking about 1980, and we were really a manufacturing country. And so a lot of people, when they left work, would immediately just go home, and they didn't know that they had a retirement fund. So that's one portion of the unclaimed benefits. The other portion, as you rightfully introduced, would be the portion where people changed addresses. So you came to work in Joburg, you lived, say, in Soweto, but actually your home was in Eastern Cape. So when you gave your address as one where, for working purposes, you could obtain employment. And when you left, you then went home, but the address that the fund has got is the one that you gave as you were here. So a lot of people would have gone home, especially for the industries that we're speaking about.
So those are some of the reasons why people don't claim. I mean, so where, Takalani, is the money sitting? I mean, people don't claim.
Chaltena is actually sitting the retirement funding in the retirement fund that you belong to.
Yeah.
So when you join employment, your fund will have a board of trustees. They will then appoint a service provider. They'll appoint your administrator, which are typically your Old Mutual, your Momentums, your Alexander Forbes. We've got about 300 of those that are registered that administer different funds. They would then be the ones that actually make payment. So it's not the Financial Services Board that is sitting with the money. It's that we're the regulator. So when we receive financial statements, we actually get to see that funds are holding these unclaimed benefits or have these benefits that they have not paid. So the money is actually sitting with your fund, and your fund has an administrator that is appointed, and that money is being administered there.
I mean, we're talking years later. You know, what happens then if people never come to claim? What will happen with the money? Will it still sit there? Will it serve a purpose of some sort?
There's no plan to have this money go anywhere. You know, in the past 5 years, 22 billion has been paid out in terms of unclaimed benefits. So there is work that is being done. The more the issue receives attention, which is good, the more people hear about it and they come forward. And the work that's being done by other organizations and our office as well, to try and claim or to find people for the funds to pay is actually assisting. So we will reach a stage, because of our historical background, we will reach a stage where there just isn't sufficient information to go and look for somebody. So say, for instance, and it happened a lot with migrant workers from neighboring countries, in order to get work, they changed their names. They gave names that would have sounded South African. And so your passport or your name in Mozambique does not match your name that you gave to the fund. Now, the fund has no way of knowing that. And if you're already deceased, your children don't know that either. So we're going to end up with a situation where there's money that we just won't know who it belongs to because of that historical background. But like I said, the fact that there's been 22 billion that has already been claimed, and there are initiatives to go out to communities to actually assist people to claim. I think we will reach a point where it does gain more momentum and we do get more monies paid out.
How do we trace these funds? Whose responsibility is it to trace these funds?
Well, the board of management of that retirement fund is responsible for tracing the benefit. But you can imagine if you are you were employed and money was being sent to you almost as a third party. So the main function would have been the employer. And over the years, employers have closed down. You know, we have had recessions and companies have closed down. And if a fund didn't receive enough information in respect of a member, they can't go back to an employer that doesn't exist anymore to get those records. So it will become an issue of trying to trace people with other methods. But at the moment, we've got what we call taking regulation to the people, which is the FSB's initiative to go into communities. We started the initiative actually in Soweto in October 2015. We came and assisted people in tracing and claiming their monies. And at that day, I think we actually recorded about 3,000 people came, and we, over a 2-day period, where we assisted them.
In a situation where you trace the company, you find out that it is actually closed down, it means it's a loss for me.
No, not necessarily. So as I said, the fund and the employer are two separate entities. So if the fund is still in existence and you did not get paid your money, so what we did, if the company closed down and there were unclaimed benefits in the fund before or just after the company closed down, we established what we call special purpose vehicles that only hold unclaimed benefits.
Special purpose vehicles.
Yes.
Hold it right there. I want us to continue more on that after the epic when and also about this initiative where you go into, you know, Mageshi, you teach us and also give information on how we can claim. We'll touch more on that after the break as we continue with Takalani Lukhaimani, who's manager for pensions, enforcement and surveillance at FSB. And we'll touch more. Stay tuned.